Hello, welcome to the fifth day. Even though historically behavioral therapy came into existence, it also became popular after the psychodynamic theories were ruling the roost for quite some time. Uh, Carl Rogers and Maslow.
Excuse me, Father.
Yeah,
Could you make the PPT in the slideshow mode?
okay.
Fine. Yeah. Go ahead, Father.
Okay. Yesterday we talked about psychodynamic. Today we want to talk about humanistic psychology. Even though historically behavior therapy came into existence, it became popular after psychodynamic theories were considered non or unscientific. They had good ideas, but they were not they could not prove all the concepts as, as true. Scientifically, they could not prove. So in those days, hard science was given importance, like chemistry, physics, they were given importance. So even psychologists, even though human science is only a soft science, they also want to try and prove that even in psychology, we can prove certain things as scientific. So behavior came in handy. So they said, you tell us what to change, we will help you to change. So that is how, Watson, Pavlov, Skinner, they all tried to prove to the scientific people, we can also prove certain things. What is the problem? What is the treatment we give? And what will be the impact? We can say that we can cure people of behavioral problems. What is happening in the mind, we cannot prove, we cannot scientifically explain what exactly is happening. This could be only theoretical. So they succeeded in developing, behavioral therapy. Even Watson said, you give me a child and you tell me what this child should become. I can make the child, whether, you want the child to be an Einstein or maybe a criminal, I can still change. So that is how he challenged people. But humanistic psychology, after some time, they said we cannot treat people like guinea pigs. We are, total person must be accepted as a single person. They have more than behavior. We have our own phenomenological aspects. What is in the subjective world, that is also important. So people like Carl Rogers and Maslow, they gave importance to the emotions, the phenomenological world, the private world of individual, and they also, respected each individual. They also believe that they have the autonomy. They can decide what they want. So humanistic psychology emphasizes the importance of self-actualization, growth, and personal experience. It focuses on the idea that people are inherently good and have the ability to improve themselves. So somewhat normal people, were taken into consideration in this philosophy. And Carl Rogers, Maslow, and other humanists, they said, they have the capacity deep down. They also have the free will. People have the ability to make choices and control their mental health. They also have a need, not only the basic five needs, which we saw 2 days ago. I will still show a slide of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we have higher needs. The major, the top one would be self-actualization. So people have an inherent drive to realize their full potential. What is happening? We are stuck somewhere. we have barriers to reach self-actualization. So we don't go beyond the basic four needs or some other little higher needs. We must go towards self-actualization, but actually we have a drive. And Rogers would also insist on unconditional positive regard. This is not only for counselors, but also for every human being. People should be treated without preconceived notions of value. And also, they gave importance, the humanists gave importance to holistic well being. People should focus on enjoying experiences and pursuing things that bring them joy. They also believed environmental influences. People's experiences are influenced by their environment, not just their internal thoughts and desires. These are their philosophical concepts. Carl Rogers, rather than concentrating on dysfunction, humanistic psychology strives to help people fulfill their potential and maximize their well being. Carl Rogers was a very good person. As a person, he was concerned about people. He was very gentle, respectful, and he had a lot of empathy. He counseled even people with serious mental illnesses. He was in Milwaukee, and people used to say great things about Carl Rogers. Whenever people need to talk to someone, they will expect Carl Rogers, because even people with serious mental illnesses got well according to the report because of him as a person and as a professional, because he respected, because he had a lot of empathy, because he had been very genuine with everyone, with himself and with others. People got healed. Rogers founded client-centered therapy, and pioneered in the development of scientific methods for studying psychotherapeutic outcomes. In 1942, Rogers became the first therapist to record and transcribe therapy sessions verbatim, a practice now standard. He published his ideas and clinical results in several books, including On Becoming a Person, which made him a well-known figure in American psychology. Person-centered therapy relies on the client to be the catalyst for their own healing. So he came up with the non-directive therapy. Rogers believed in the power of each of us to heal ourselves. By discovering our own capabilities, we are able to find solutions to problems that plague us. Sorry. In person-centered therapy, the therapist acts as a model for communication. Sorry. But does not provide answers for the client. The therapist's role is to provide guidance and structure so that the client can discover the solutions within themselves using the techniques and strategies taught by the therapist. Earlier, behaviorists and psychodynamic therapists, they were all using directive therapy. They guided the therapy. They thought the patients did not know much, so they have to guide them what to choose, what to talk, and so on and so forth, even though Freud allowed the people to speak whatever they wanted to speak. Actually, the therapy was guided by the therapist. The hierarchy of needs we have already seen. I only just want to remind you, physiological needs, that is the basic. If that is fulfilled, people will go towards the higher needs. Safety needs, security, safety, belonging and love needs, intimate relationships, friends, and esteem needs, prestige and feeling of accomplishment, including self-esteem, and higher than that, we have self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. So very often we do not even know what potential we have within us. So we may not even fulfill them. We may not complete whatever we are capable of. So basic needs, psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs. So key concepts for Rogers and others, very important is congruence, connected with genuineness. The willingness to transparently relate to clients without hiding behind a professional or personal facade. They were themselves. They were not hiding. They were not dissembling. They were not telling lies. They were so honest, people were able to believe them. So they were so trusting and also trustworthy. The next concept is important is unconditional positive regard. We have seen it at least 3 times. The therapist offers an acceptance and pricing for their client for who he or she is without conveying disapproving feelings, actions, or characteristics, and demonstrating a willingness to attentively listen without interruption, judgment, or giving advice, because they are important. The client is important. He is a person. If I respect that person, I will listen. I will not judge. I will give complete attention to that particular person's sharing. Then empathy, we have seen it already 2 days ago. The therapist communicates their desire to understand and appreciate the client's perspective. So it is empathy is feeling as if I were the other person. These three are, according to Carl Rogers, core conditions and even sufficient. But some other psychologists might say these are necessary, but may not be sufficient for all clients. But Carl Rogers believed these are more than enough. And if we possess these three qualities, if they are part of us, part of our personality, we will heal people because people will consider us trustworthy. They will be willing to share and we can guide them indirectly. According to Carl Rogers, therapist client, there are 6 factors. Therapist client psychological contact. A relationship between client and therapist must exist. And it must be a relationship in which each person's perception of the other is important. Without a relationship, we cannot do counseling. What is a relationship? It is a professional, at the same time, intimate relationship, according to Carl Rogers. It's a trusting relationship. You realize that you are the counselor and the client, is so willing to share, he or she will be spontaneous in sharing. When we are ourselves, the clients also will be themselves. Client incongruence. The incongruence exists between the client's experience and awareness. They have goals, they have desires, but they have not achieved them. They say one thing and do another. So incongruence can exist in various things, in behavior, in verbal sharing, in their life also. Therapist at the same time is congruent. When the client is incongruent, the therapist is very congruent. In slightly modified meaning, we are genuine. The therapist is congruent with the therapeutic relationship. The therapist is deeply involved, in himself. They are not acting and they can draw on their own experiences, self-disclosure to facilitate the relationship. In Freudian psychoanalytic analysis, Freud may not share anything about himself. In Adler and Jung, they may allow a little bit, but it was not considered important. Behavior therapists, would not even ask about the past. They would say, what is your problem? Behavior problem. You tell us, we will help you to get cured. But the humanists, Carl Rogers, he would say, because we trust you, we are also willing to share about ourselves. We are genuine. This is what we are. That helped the therapy. 5, therapist empathic understanding. One of the core conditions, empathy. The therapist experiences an empathic understanding of the client's internal frame of reference. Accurate empathy on the part of the therapist helps the client believe the therapist's unconditional love for them. So empathy, unconditional positive regard, genuineness, they are all important and enough. Client perception, that the client perceives to at least a minimal degree the therapist's unconditional positive regard and empathic understanding. Even if they fail in the beginning, after some time, they will perceive and they will change. Assumptions. People are trustworthy in nature. We can trust them, even if they have problems, even if they are seriously ill. According to humanistic psychology, they are trustworthy. I'm sorry, 1 minute. I'll get some water.
Dear participants, maybe I take this opportunity to give you some informations about the program. Tomorrow we will have the offline classes. For those people who can attend the offline classes, we expect the people who are in and around Trichy may join us. For those who cannot attend the practicum, tomorrow's session will
They
be
have the capacity to understand and resolve their own problems. So they have the potential within. They are innately resourceful and capable. They can find solutions on their own. But the therapist, with the guidance, with the three core conditions, we can guide them. That will be enough. We need not do more than that. Clients understand what is making them unhappy. Okay, so they know they have the resource, they are capable, and they can understand and resolve their own problems. So the counselor's duty or the therapist's duty is to only encourage and promote their well-being by showing empathy, unconditional positive regard, and genuineness. Carl Rogers therapy has been proved effective for various problems: anxiety disorder, alcoholism, psychosomatic problems, agoraphobia, interpersonal difficulties, depression, cancer, marriage and family problems, and so on and so forth. So main focus is on the person, not on the person's problems. This allows the client to reconnect with his or herself. Clients are assisted in therapy so that they can deal with current problems as well as problems that they may develop in future. It focuses on helping a person become aware of their true self and develop congruency. Clients go through some experience, through therapy, client is able to let down their guards, defenses and become more true to themselves. They gain perception into themselves, which allows them to better understand and accept others. So basic assumptions about client's process: self-regard. The focus is to help the person feel significantly more positive. Locus of evaluation: clients tend to worry too much about what others think, usually. But through this therapy, we ask them, look at yourself from your own point of view. Do not be dependent on other people. What is your inner gut telling you? Your personal experience, your emotions. Externalized values and standards. Others' evaluations of the client are not very, not prior to your own. Experiencing rather than a rigid mode. So, experience is given importance. The goal is to have an attitude of openness. Helper is to be present and accessible. The therapist, the counselor, has to be present here and now. So, present before the client, present to the client, and accessible and trustworthy. Focus is on the phenomenological world of the client. Phenomenological, the personal, subjective world of the client. Helper should strive to be as transparent and honest as possible. Focus is on the present rather than explaining the past. Okay. So these are some of the points about Carl Rogers in a person-centered therapy. Originally, he called it client-centered therapy. Afterwards, he changed to person-centered therapy because he was giving importance to each individual, even though they had some serious problems. We cannot, according to the people's criticism, we cannot use this therapy for everyone. Like, for example, people with borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, people who are having delusions or hallucinations. It will not help them. Needs to recognize the disorder and not just focus on the person, even though humanistic psychology and the Carl Rogers person-centered therapy will make us focus on the problem and not on the person. Okay. Some people said Carl Rogers is overly optimistic. That means very simplistic. Okay. Some ideas about person-centered therapy and humanistic. It gave importance to individual, their personal experience. Okay. It made them feel good. It made the clients feel good because they are listened to completely. The therapist gives complete attention to the client and respected. The therapist shows empathy, and that makes the client feel, oh, I am understood very well. And unconditional positive regard of the counselor makes that person, oh, there is somebody for me in my life. I can trust this person. This person is concerned about my health, about my well-being. Whenever someone, a human being, has these three aspects, the outcome of all these three, empathy, unconditional positive regard, and genuineness, that person will, start flowering, blooming. That person will really profit. So that is important. In the 1950s that we have seen, people combined cognition and behavior, and we call them cognitive behavioral therapy. I am rushing for lack of time. If there are any questions, we can ask later. Okay. I am going to talk about two therapies, one CBT and REBT. Cognitive behavioral therapy by Aaron Beck, REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy by Albert Ellis. Aaron Beck, cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people say cognitive behavior therapy. In the same way, Albert Ellis came up with rational emotive behavior therapy. More or less at the same time, both of them came up with a similar understanding of how to help people, even though they were not in touch with each other. Only later on we came to know that both had developed similar, but there are some differences, wonderful therapies, which were very effective. Both had been trained in psychoanalysis before developing their own therapies. What are CBT and REBT? Both come under cognitive behavioral therapies, even though Aaron Beck called it only cognitive behavioral therapy, or REBT was called rational emotive behavior therapy. Both come under the umbrella of cognitive behavior therapies because both are using cognitive therapy and behavior therapy by identifying maladaptive patterns of thinking, emotional responses, or behaviors and replacing them with more desirable or helpful patterns. Okay. We need to understand what is cognition. Cognitions are the product of processing information and manifest as thoughts, verbalizations, and explicitly held outcomes such as beliefs, values, attitudes, judgments, and conclusions. You will understand, from the slide I showed you on psychological mechanisms, all these will come under psychological mechanisms. So when we analyze psychological mechanisms, we are busy with cognition. CVT, it believed that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all impact one another. Okay. Thoughts will affect our feelings will affect our behavior will affect either the feelings or thoughts. Here, one is added situation that triggers the problem according to some people's idea. Thoughts, what goes through my head. For example, I am not good enough. That may be my thought. Immediately, I will develop some emotion and feeling. Emotions, how do I feel? When I think that I am not good enough, I'll feel worthless. I'll become anxious. Then my behavior also will be affected. What to do? When I feel I am not good enough, when I feel I am worthless and anxious, I would like to do something so that I am saved, I am protected. So I may avoid contact with other people because others will consider me less important, or they will ill treat me, or they will not respect me. I may avoid contact with other people. What are the physical reactions? How does my body react? Even when we have thoughts or emotions, our body may react even in the beginning itself. But even after that, it will react. How does my body react? When I constantly think I am not good enough, when I feel most of the time worthless or anxious, when I avoid contact with other people, I may also feel tired physically, loss of appetite. So this will go on a cycle. Again, this will become when I feel tired, when I have loss of appetite, again my thoughts will be, yes, it is true. I feel tired. I am not good enough. I cannot act. Again, my feelings and behavior will be impacted by the whole cycle. The three aspects are important. In CBT, we talk about automatic thoughts, cognitive distortions, and underlying beliefs as schemas. By addressing these three concepts, the ability to adjust the associated behavior become more possible. By examining dysfunctional automatic thoughts that are exaggerated, distorted, mistaken, or unrealistic in other ways, one begins to better understand the relationship between them and negative behaviors. Okay, so these automatic thoughts and the cognitive distortions and underlying beliefs or schemas, along with dysfunctional automatic thoughts that are exaggerated, distorted, mistaken, or unrealistic. All these will be under these headings. The goal is to recognize the automatic thoughts that cause harm or discomfort so they can be mitigated in the future. Dysfunctional automatic thoughts may be also exaggerated, distorted, mistaken, or unrealistic in other ways. So these three are very important in CBT. Assumptions of CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. How we behave in a situation depends on our perception and thoughts. Once again, under psychological mechanisms, what we perceive about ourselves, others, world, and God, our thoughts about self, our work, our life, everything will be affected. Distorted cognitions lead to maladaptive behavior because we think, negatively. Our behavior also will become maladaptive. Thoughts can be controlled and modified according to CBT. Uh, Therapeutic change can be produced by altering the distorted thinking patterns in an individual. So through therapy, we can help the clients change their distorted thinking patterns so that they are better off. Basic concepts, automatic thoughts, cognitive errors or cognitive distortions. They are rapidly occurring thoughts, usually negative in response to a situation without rational analysis. For example, all the students will laugh at me when I walk into the seminar hall. If that is my automatic thought, that will affect my functioning in the seminar hall. I will immediately have an emotion in my body. I will have a feeling which is negative, and my behavior could be affected. What are schemas? These are core beliefs we have. These core beliefs may be in the conscious level, or sometimes it can even go into subconscious or unconscious. It may be part of our personal reality, which may be against truth. Schema is the pattern or framework of thoughts that helps us organize and interpret the information. We see things not as the things are, but we see things as directed by our mind, by the core beliefs we have. That is why perception is so individualistic. No two people will perceive something in the same way. When we perceive negatively, when we think negatively, when we feel negatively, when we behave negatively, some core beliefs will be produced, and they may be stored in the unconscious or the pre-conscious, and they will become core beliefs, and we will operate on both levels, conscious and unconscious levels, with these core beliefs. Core beliefs produce the automated thoughts again, a kind of a cycle. They may be adaptive or maladaptive, positive or negative. What are the cognitive distortions we need to understand? I'm not going to explain everything. All or nothing thinking, overgeneralizing, discounting the positive, jumping to conclusions, mind reading, fortune telling, magnification or catastrophizing, and minimizing, emotional reasoning, should statements, labeling and mislabeling, personalization. These are all cognitive distortions. Okay? All or nothing thinking, either we judge people is good or bad, nothing in between. He is a wonderful person. No, he is a rascal. These are all or nothing thinking. Overgeneralizing, suppose you have been late for one meeting, you will say, see, I am always late. Generally, we don't do this for ourselves, but for other people, we say, if you see someone coming late one day, say, yeah, why are you always late? This is overgeneralizing. Discounting the positive. I remember one person told me, whenever I call him, he doesn't take the call. So I asked her, how many times did you call yesterday? 6 times. Did he not take all the calls, all the 6 calls, or how many did he take? How many did he not take? In the evening, he did not take the call. But what about in the morning, afternoon? Yeah, he took the call. So this person, is discounting the positive and remembering only the negative. Both in the morning and in the afternoon, that person, her boyfriend or a friend took the calls, but one time he did not take the call immediately, and she, discounted the positive and only remembers the negative. Jumping to conclusions. Suppose somebody comes in with one button open in the shirt, he's clumsy always. Okay, immediately we jump about and conclude about the person or that person's capacity and so on. Mind reading, again, as if we are able to, look into the mind and the reading what is happening in the person's mind. We will say, yeah, this is what he is thinking. We may be wrong. Fortune telling goes along with that. Magnification, something like overgeneralizing or all or nothing thinking. We will magnify certain things, we will minimize certain things. Emotional reasoning, that also could be faulty very often. According to REBT, we often use should, must, or ought to statements. They are also under cognitive distortions. Labeling and mislabeling, personalization. When something happens to other people, we may personalize to ourselves, and all these may be cognitive distortions. Irrational beliefs are messages about life. Absolutes demands global evaluations. Overgeneralizations, negative or pessimistic ways of looking at life experiences, unrealistic expectations. Okay. If I expect the whole world to be perfect, I am having something called absolute. I am demanding the world, to dance according to my tune, and I will evaluate the whole world according to my understanding. Examining cognitive distortions as overgeneralizing and catastrophizing can help an individual further understand how the skewed thought processes can cause them to react and overreact in unnecessary, unhealthy ways to external situations. So, cognitive distortions don't help us at all. They will make us, overgeneralize or catastrophize, and we will see things, everything negative or black, and we will not be happy at all. Regarding underlying belief, that is the core beliefs, one can get a better understanding of their core value sets and how they both help and hinder the way in which they interact with the world. Example, your employer falsely accuses you of siphoning money from the company's account. Somebody is doing, you believe she has no right to accuse me of something I did not do. This is atrocious. Even though this is good, reasonable understanding, this is how we will normally think. But what happens to you? Immediately you feel angry and annoyed. According to REBT, we'll go to that particular example later. A does not cause C, but B does. We will see a little more clearly under REBT. So CBT uses, assessment. A thorough assessment is conducted to understand the individual's unique experiences, symptoms, and goals, but they do not go too much into the past or even childhood experiences. They will say, now, what are you experiencing? What is your problem? What are the symptoms? How much are you distressed? And, are you functional? These are the only things they will ask, and specific behavioral pattern they will ask, and they will once again immediately they will go for goal setting. Okay, what do you want to change? We can help you. The therapist and client collaboratively set specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound goals. That is why behavioral therapies can be considered scientific by other people, because they take a limited thing and then say, okay, you want to change this, we can help you change. A treatment plan is made. A personalized treatment plan is developed incorporating CBT techniques tailored to the individual's needs. CBT and REBT, both are structured, but every individual therapist has some flexibility. They can modify, but they stick to the philosophy and the assumptions. Intellectually and cognitively and philosophically inclined, REBT has its own philosophy. So it is active and directive, not like Carl Rogers' non-directive person-centered therapy. It is the therapist who is guiding the client to do or even to talk about something. Behavioral instructions are given, and even teaching is done in the therapy. Client's experience in counseling. Clients experience in the present, even though they are cognitive behavior therapies, they are asked to be in the present. Like the person-centered and existential approaches, this also in the present, here and now, is important. Patterns of thinking and emoting, they constructed earlier. They explore, they go through one more time in therapy. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. This is what I was feeling. These are my experiences. Client's early history and making connections will be brought to the present and then analyzed, so that if they want to change something, they can change behaviorally. Outcome of CBT, measurable improvements in well-being. Reduced symptoms, various researchers have indicated 80% of the symptoms have been reduced. Improved quality of life, 75%. Enhanced coping skills for the future, 65%. Okay, now if we go to REBT, Albert Ellis, September 27, 1913, he was born in New York. July 24, 2007, he died. He developed REBT in 1955. He held MA and PhD in clinical psychology, founded Albert Ellis Institute in New York. In other places also they have started, but he was in New York. He was typically from New York, so his style of communication, his accent, his imagery will be like a person from New York in those days. Common irrational beliefs. According to Ellis, common irrational beliefs are I should be thoroughly competent at everything. As a desire, this is okay. I may have a wish that I should be competent in everything I do. But is it reasonable? Is it practical? Will I be competent in everything? So, according to Albert Ellis, I have this belief that I should be thoroughly competent at everything. It would be irrational belief. Then another belief we have, it is catastrophic when things are not the way I want them to be. Everything. Like for example, this morning I heard from somebody a phone call. Only last month they got married and they are in trouble. They want to separate now. Suppose both the husband and wife, newly married husband and wife, they think, oh, I never thought this would be like this. It is true. We understand. But in every little thing, you expect the whole world to dance around you or according to your tune. You go to some place, you expect something, and if it is not there, you get terribly frustrated. Then you are catastrophizing. You are expecting too much. It may not be happening at all. Another irrational belief is I have no control over my happiness. According to Ellis, it is, irrational. We can control to a large extent our own happiness. Certain things can happen, like sickness, problems, from other people. All these may happen, but
Father, we have some issues with your audio. Dear participants, I think Father is off the line. We'll come back. I'm sharing with you about tomorrow's in the program. We have the offline, practical classes that begins at 9 o'clock in the morning and that will end at 1 p.m. It will be conducted in the Sale Auditorium, Sale Hall of St. Joseph's College. Sale Hall is located in the Arupe Library Building. Arupe Library Building, first floor, the right wing. So those of you can come. We expect at least the people in and around Trichy, if you can make a trip to St. Joseph's College. you will enjoy and you will appreciate our program. Right? For those people who cannot attend, of course, there in the brochure, uh, the whole program will be live telecast. And those people who cannot even attend the live telecast, we will record the proceedings of the offline classes and we will post it to you in our YouTube channel. You can expect the recordings to be posted in our YouTube channel latest by tomorrow evening, because we need some time to go through, edit, and post the proceedings. So latest by tomorrow, it will be posted. Father, can you join? Kindly unmute your mic, Father. Not audible.
Yeah. Can
Yeah,
you hear
okay,
me
okay.
now?
Yeah. It's fine.
Suddenly it was cut. It was
No
said
issues, Father. Yeah, I was
connection.
engaging them. Yeah.
Okay. So another irrational belief would be our past history influences greatly our present life. There is a perfect solution to human problems. All these could be irrational, uh, according to uh, according to Albert Ellis. Okay. The three basic musts. All beliefs that upset us are variations of three common irrational beliefs, and each contain a demand. I must do well and win the approval of other people. For example, if I am teaching in a class, I may have a desire that I must do well and everybody should like me and appreciate my class, which is okay. If it is only a desire, if it is a wish, it is good. Like I expect my family to be perfect. Okay. Uh, the whole family should love me. All members should treat me equally. Second one, I must be treated considerably, fairly, and kindly in the way I expect to be treated. The belief that other people must meet your expectations to be worthy. If they don't accept me, I have no worth. If they don't love me, I am nobody. I don't need to live. These are all based on irrational beliefs and they contain a demand. 3. Life must be easy without discomfort or inconvenience, and I must get what I want when I want, or else I will be unhappy. So, if we decide that everything must be smooth, I must do well, I must get the approval of everyone in the world or around me, I must be treated by all the people fairly and kindly, and life must be easy. These are, when we look at these demands, they seem to be normal. Every human being will have these expectations or desires, but sometimes they become irrational because they may not happen. So, one leads to anxiety, depression, shame, and guilt. If I don't do well, if I don't win the approval of other people, I will, become anxious, depressed. I'll be feeling shame and guilt. Second one, if they don't treat me fairly and kindly in the way that I expect, I become angry. Leads to rage, passive aggression, and acts of violence. Third one, if it doesn't happen, if life is not easy, leads to self-pity and procrastination. That is why they are irrational beliefs. So, counselors' functions and roles. They show clients irrational shoulds, oughts, and musts. If we listen to anybody's conversation, whether they are clients or friends or other people, ordinary people, we often use, these any of these three indirectly. I must, become a medical doctor. I should go to the US coming month. I should buy an iPhone, the latest one, next month. We have lots of shoulds. If it is only a desire, then no problem. But if it becomes very demanding, then we will have problem. So the counselor explains what kind of shoulds and oughts they have even in their ordinary conversation for a few minutes during the session. They make the clients understand the vicious circle of self-blaming process, because if things don't happen according to their expectation, they blame themselves. Rational beliefs from their irrational ones, they show the difference in what is rational, what is irrational. The counselors encourage and persuade clients to move on so that they can question their beliefs and change them to rational beliefs. Activities that will counter their self-defeating beliefs. They point out what are the activities that will counter their self-defeating beliefs. Okay. So ABC model, you would have heard so many times. Sorry. Activating event, something happens to you or in the environment. It could be anything. Beliefs, you have a belief or interpretation regarding the activating event. Consequence, your belief has consequences that include feelings and behavior. Consequence is not necessarily only feelings, but it could also be behavior. Then D is disputation of beliefs. Challenge your beliefs to create new consequences, and ultimately you will get new beliefs, adoption and implementation of new adaptive beliefs. Finally, F also we can add, you will get a new feeling. Okay. All of you might know this already. I'm only reminding you. A, activating event, belief, consequence. D, disputing intervention. So you question the irrational belief and change it to, rational belief. Then you will get an effective, new effect. Then you develop new effective philosophy and a new feeling will take place. Basic steps in REBT: identifying the underlying irrational thought patterns and beliefs reflected as absolutes. I must, I should, I cannot. Some of the most common irrational beliefs include feeling excessively upset over other people's mistakes, believing that you must be 100% competent and successful to be valued and worthwhile, believing that you will be happier if you avoid life's difficulties and or challenges, feeling that you have no control over your own happiness, that your contentment and joy are dependent upon external forces. Possessing such rigid expectations of ourselves and others only leads to disappointment, recrimination, regret, and anxiety. So changing one's language. By the way, language also is very important. What words are we using? How do we communicate to ourselves and others? So imprecise language will indicate distorted thinking process. So if you are good at analyzing your communication, both verbal and non-verbal, it gives us some idea how our thinking is distorted. Check for also must, should, ought, and are we using it? Would be absolutely awful if this happens. Many people who are committing suicide would have this. If this happens, I will not live. I will commit suicide, or I will do this. So these reflect our helplessness and self-condemnation. Client may often create a negative self-fulfilling prophecy and actually fail. What is a self-fulfilling prophecy? You prophesy to yourself that you are going to fail and you will act on it and you will actually fail. So this is a kind of a cycle that we go through, and we need to be careful because we are ruining our own lives by these distortions, and even including the language, we have to be careful. What to do if you are a counselor or if you are helping someone in some way? Challenge clients to develop a rational philosophy. In other words, I told you the philosophy of human nature can be faulty. In psychological mechanisms, at the end, the last slide I had, we have overall philosophy of human nature. Is it negative? Do we have lots of shoulds, musts, and ought to in that philosophy? All that we need to check. Avoid becoming the victim of other irrational beliefs in future. Or some people will come and tell us this is the right thing. Nowadays, social media is creating many irrational beliefs, and we believe that. We will say, if I don't do this, then I'm a failure. I'm nobody. No assurance that no new illogical fears will not emerge. Of course, people will tell us and they will motivate us to believe in irrational beliefs. Dispute the core of the irrational thinking. Earlier we talked about core beliefs, schema, that also we can check. How to substitute rational beliefs and attitudes for irrational ones. So if we go through these stages, one by one, we can easily find mistakes in our thinking, in our belief system, and in our overall philosophy. The CBT REBT counselor explains how these ideas and beliefs can be replaced with more rational ideas. So we guide them in by asking questions, by even cracking a joke, pointing out the incongruities, okay, discrepancies in their sharing, because they may tolerate one thing and not another. So we will also help them to see how, what are rational, what are irrational, and how to displace these. Also, they explain how to apply the scientific approach to thinking, logical, reasoning, okay. Uses several cognitive, emotive, and behavioral methods. There are many techniques they use, which are all very effective, but not for everyone. Certain techniques will work with some people. The counselors act against the client's disturbances, and cognitive restructuring is done. So, restructuring of the thought patterns or the belief patterns are done. The counselor uses a number of things, persuasion, even though, according to Carl Rogers, we cannot force people to change. We cannot impose our values and so on. Persuasion is done. Praise is given. When people do well, when people think clearly, the counselor appreciates. Exaggeration. This is done, very well by REBT. Albert Ellis will, exaggerate and make the person feel, oh, I made a terrible mistake. I'm even to the point of saying, why did I think such irrational thoughts? Okay. Instruction is given. REBT, Albert Ellis had even humorous songs about irrational beliefs and how people behave. And anecdotes may be given. So these are all used by the counselors. Counselor does not deal with free association, analyzing dreams, uh, focusing on past history or transference. But without that, they help the clients to change their irrational beliefs or automatic thoughts. Practical identify, we can do it on our own, we can help other people. Identify the thought, challenge the thought, replace the thought. Clients learning in counseling, cognitive restructuring process, they become aware how to restructure because the counselor helps. Client's role in CBT and REBT is that of a learner. I am learning something new, new ways of thinking, new ways of, changing my irrational belief to rational belief. How to apply logical thought to problem solving. So three things are important. Ayurvedic therapists try to help their clients develop three types of acceptance. One, unconditional self-acceptance. I am a fallible human being. I make mistake. I am a human being. I'll make mistake. So I will accept myself even though I have made some mistake. Unconditional other acceptance. Other people will treat me unfairly from time to time. They may not know my value. So it is possible that they will treat me badly. Unconditional life acceptance. Life doesn't always work out the way I would like it to be. It may not happen. The emotionally healthy response would be to accept reality even when it is highly fortunate or unpleasant. REBT promotes rational thinking, reduces emotional distress, enhances self-acceptance, improves behavioral outcomes, and increases resilience. Okay? So this is the outcome of REBT. Time consumption, clients might have lived with, these are limitations. People might have lived with irrational beliefs for many, many years. Can we change them in one session or a few sessions? Depends on the people. Are they ready and willing to give up? Full cooperation is required from the client. They must be also able to think logically. Otherwise, therapy will be very difficult. Clients with serious mental illness may not profit by these therapies. Some clients may not like directive therapies. They would like to be guided, gently, like Carl Rogers. REBT, especially Albert Ellis, could be rather blunt, even crude in his language to the client. But it worked with some people. It may not be liked by some people. Some may perceive these therapies as confrontational. While focusing on irrational thoughts and beliefs, these therapies may ignore other cultural and social factors that contribute to emotional distress. In certain cultures, certain beliefs will be there as sacred beliefs. If you ask the client to change that particular belief, we may not realize as counselor that it is rooted in their own culture. So we are asking them to almost discard their culture, which may be rather harmful to the individual unless that individual is well prepared. Okay. Any, Sir, Dr. Balia, I'm done with my presentation. If there are any questions.
Yes, participants, you may come up with your questions. Yes. Three people have raised their hands.
Okay.
Mr. Mohan, could you unmute their mics, please?
Done, sir.
Okay. Dr. B. Bharati,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind, you can come on the video and have your question, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So my first question is, as a counselor, how we determine which behavior therapy best suit the client's need?
For any particular problem or?
For any particular problem, especially we can say that game addiction behavior.
Okay. For addictions, CBT, REBT would be very effective. According to research, according to experience of many therapists, because it is an addiction, it has its own beliefs behind the addiction. REBT, CBT have been proved to be very effective. Carl Rogers would say addiction can be helped by person-centered therapy as well. But some psychologists believe that it takes a lot of time, because if they are ready and willing and able to change, give up their addiction and move on, then even person-centered therapy would be very effective. Okay.
So is
So,
depending
on the person, depending on their readiness and willingness and ability to change, we can use therapy like REBT, CBT, okay, or even person-centered therapy.
So is there any novel approaches in treating the game addiction behavior?
See, game addiction is still not very clear what we call as addiction. Even though DSM-5 has mentioned gaming addiction as one of the addictions, people use like mobile phones for many things. Okay, We use it for time, we use it for communication, we use it for learning. If we can separate only the gaming time and the intensity with which
The voice is breaking.
person, it it gives them many positive gains. So we need to understand their positive gains, even though gaming is negative, even though it takes time and energy. Some people even waste money through games. We need to understand, are they ready and willing? That is important. Otherwise, we'll be wasting our time and energy to force them to change. Okay. So what are the positive psychological gains they get? And, if they are not in the preparation stage, in the trans-theoretical stages of change, it is very difficult to change them.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Good evening, Father. This is BG.
Yes.
Um,
Can you turn on the video? We'll understand better.
sir, my camera is not there.
Okay.
How can we evaluate that the client's progression, there is a progression in his psychological behavior, or they are overcoming their problems?
Only from their sharing we will know. We need to ask them, in the second session or third session, whether there has been any change, whether there is any improvement, because we are not living with the clients. We are not observing them all the time. From what they share, we can also get information from the family members or from the organizations, other friends. If we can get with their approval, we will know whether they are changing and so on. But we can ask in counseling how they feel about what is happening. What are the thoughts? Spontaneously, if they can share, then they will reveal quite a lot whether they are improving or not improving. Okay. So if all the psychological mechanisms are looked into, and if they are supported by the psychological mechanisms, that means, if they perceive the problematic behavior as negative, that means there is some insight. Suppose there is a desire to change, that is positive. Suppose they have taken some efforts to change, then we will say, okay, they are stepping on to the path of progression. So we will look at various aspects of psychological mechanisms and their own sharing, and we can get data from other people as well. Okay. Otherwise, we won't know. But spontaneously, they will also reveal something, not everything. Depending on their body language and so on, we will find out. Okay.
Sir, one more question.
Yeah.
Do the CBT and REBT are more common in Indian culture? Because as you pointed out, the clients who have no logical thinking will find these therapies difficult.
True.
And when we are facing some of the people around us, most of them are up to this no logical thinking. How this can be applied in Indian society?
Thinking. Sometimes they have cognitive errors, or most of us have cognitive errors in something or other. So if we can help them to deal with their cognitive errors, cognitive distortions, we can help them to think more rationally or logically. It is possible. We cannot expect everyone to be logical all the time in all aspects of life. Okay. Even in other countries, there may be people who are having emotional logic, emotional thinking. So we cannot say in India, but if somebody is rooted in illogical thinking, we can find out in the first session itself. Okay.
Uncle Fatima.
There is
Good
somebody.
evening,
Come in.
Father.
Yes, yeah.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening.
Father, for suppose for major depressive cases,
Hmm.
we generally, I think, use CBT a lot, along with active drugs. I mean, along with psychopharmacological treatments. Can we also use, suppose after seeing the progress of the client, can we also use mindfulness practices?
Mindfulness practice will be useful anytime for anybody,
Okay.
provided they can get into it very quickly.
Okay.
Because some people are so distracted, so dissipated in their thinking, mindfulness will take long time. Some practice will be helpful,
Okay. Thank you, Father.
along with
Ramalakshmi.
breathing exercise. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ramalakshmi. Yes, yeah. Go ahead, ma'am.
Sir, you were talking about incongruence.
Hmm.
So, how to deal with habitual liars?
Oh,
They say something and do something always, right? So,
okay.
if they need, I'm encountering someone who used to habitually lie. I could not deal with such people. How do I do that?
Okay. If they are in our personal life, it is very difficult. Okay.
Okay.
If you have to deal with someone who is very close, in an intimate relationship, it's very, very difficult. Okay. But if they are strangers, if they are not connected with us, if you have to deal with them at a distance, at an arm's length, it is okay. We can keep ourselves away from them. There are people who tell lies, which are called white lies. To escape punishment, to escape a bad feeling, they will tell lies. But they don't harm anyone. There are people who will tell lies when there is no reason. Okay. For anything, they are given to telling lies. They will tell lies to anyone, even to a stranger, even though it is unnecessary. There are some people who are pathological liars. If someone is a pathological liar, he is connected with pathology, the psychopathology, very serious. Very difficult to change them because lying may be part of their personality. It will take long time to help them become a different person. I don't know whether they will be cooperating even with counseling if they are pathological liars. This will be connected with pathology and also, criminal behavior, which is very difficult to change because they may not be willing to change at all because this is how they have lived. They will enjoy telling lies, but they know how to escape each time. Whenever somebody catches them, they will escape, and like a serial killer, they will be waiting for another kill with their lives. But
They cannot be
in
treated at
counseling,
all.
if you find somebody like that, suppose you meet someone in counseling, you can point out immediately because you will be wasting your time if you keep on allowing them to tell lies, and they will dupe you and they will be happy to cheat you, and you will feel miserable after being cheated again and again. So being genuine, congruent, and tell the person, hello, I recognize, there are contradictions in your sharing. I have a feeling that you may be telling lies. Your body language indicates to me that you may be telling lies. If you are genuine, you will help yourself. But if you cannot, at least say that you are not able to change your lifestyle, then, I know where you are. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
this type of behavior.
Final question.
Yeah, this type of behavior. Can I continue, sir?
Yeah, go
So this
ahead. Go
type
ahead.
of behavior, if a child starts to tell lie, and can we, as a teacher, as a student counselor, if I can change the children, one or two child who used to lie habitually, can they become normal when they grow up, or in spite of me counseling them, their family and their environment, the atmosphere in which they grow, will it bother them to continue the way they are?
Environment can help them either positively or negatively. Okay, environment. The family may encourage them to tell lies. In some families, telling lies may be encouraged, maybe even rewarded. Okay. Even the mother might say, hey, don't tell your father. Tell this thing when he asks you, this question. So the mother herself may teach the son or the daughter to tell lies. And in their philosophy, they may think telling lies is okay, fine. It is not sinful, it is not wrong. So if the person understands why that person is telling lies, what is the reward of telling lies, what is given importance? Sometimes they will get both positive and negative reward. Okay, they may get a punishment, somebody may scold them. Like if you are a counselor, you'll say, why are you telling lies? Or the teacher might find out you are telling lies, it is not good. But that person may say, I am escaping some punishment. So that is positive. But when you are scolding or when you are pointing out the mistake, they may get negative feeling. But they may prefer one thing. They may say, my escaping the punishment is better than getting the scolding from the teacher. So they will give importance to the negative thing rather than positive. So we need to help them understand what are the value systems you are operating on, which is better for a better human being. In future, if you develop these good qualities, you will be better off rather than developing negative habits like telling lies. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Father. Job well done. And in fact, you have synthesized the contents of one semester in 5 days. So job very well done. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a fabulous job. And thank you for doing this. Of course, we will see you for tomorrow's practical classes.
Yes.
And regarding the assignment on Unit 1, some of you personally called me and asked me, sir, will the assignments be hard? Well, don't worry too much about the assignments, but then there will be assignment. We will post all the details about the assignment tomorrow evening. You should be able to do the assignments if you have attended the classes. Okay, that's all I have to say. If any of the participants wants to post your comments about Unit 1, you are welcome to do it. If any participants wants to say a few words to Father, you're most welcome to do it. Okay, so thank you, and we call it a day. And I think some participants are posting their messages.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
For 1 week's class and getting us the basics of the theories and all. It was really insightful and helped us to understand better theories and the practical implications of that when we deal.
Thank you.
Actually, Father, speaking of the classes, it's more than the theory which you showed on screen. It's whatever the examples you gave us are more useful or more relatable and made those points to understand. It's not like dry theories. The example, whatever you gave, we can relate it and we could understand, oh, this is happening because of this. That was really wonderful to listen to. That made us keep awake throughout the lecture and look for more and more examples to explain, to understand the theories, whatever you speak of. Thank you.
Thank you.
The examples for the today and all the sessions you gave, it was connecting to reality.
Okay.
So we can really imagine what will happen when we meet this kind of people, and especially self-awareness was really interesting part. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father, for the wonderful sessions, all the 5 days. It was really, really very great to have the sessions. We were really blessed, especially me. This is the second time interacting with John sir. Previous sessions also I have interacted. Especially, I am new to this field. Just completed my MSc last year, so it
Okay.
was. I felt like being in my MSc classes again, a rewind of things again. So it took me back to my old college days, not old, just 2 years before those college
Okay.
days, a rewind of great memories. So thanks to God, thanks to Father, and thanks to John sir for this wonderful session organized. Thank you so much all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, ma'am. Yeah. So, thank you, one and all, and good night.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.